LEGO Star Wars has had a rough year in 2025, from sets having higher prices and missing details, to sets that are downsized yet lack stability and playability. However, after looking at numerous rumors and leaks for 2026, I'm personally not too sure things are going to be getting any better for the theme, so in this video I want to analyze the LEGO Star Wars theme in its entirety, looking at what is clearly not working and creating a huge disconnect between LEGO as a brand and the core LEGO Star Wars fanbase, in an attempt to see if we can try and steer this starship of a theme in a better direction. So what's up LEGO fans, it's LEGO Man Cam, and to start I want to look at some recent trends for LEGO Star Wars, starting essentially back in 2020 with the release of the Helmet Collection. These sets aimed at adults were presented in all black boxes, more so as collector sets. This continued through 2021 and then in 2022, where LEGO introduced the diorama sets alongside an increased number of buildable characters and droids like BD-1 and then Chewbacca in 2023 as well. Then 2024 brought back the idea of MIDI scale ships with the Starship Collection as well. What I'm getting at here is that this increase of adult collector sets, which on their own are not a bad thing, there's definitely a demand for these sets, they're just not personally what I'm into. So being isolated, these sets are not bad, but over the past few years, they've actually begun to become a bit of a problem, as they are beginning to take away from the other sets that we receive. What I mean by this is that we are fundamentally losing LEGO Star Wars playsets as the years go by. So let's take a look at 2025 for example, where we only got 8 regular playsets for the whole year, including the U-Wing, Ahsoka's Interceptor, the ARC 170, Republic Juggernaut, the Force Burner, the V19 Torrent, Jango's Starship, and the MTT. Now, I'm not including battle packs here or the seasonal set, since I class these as different types of sets, so let's now compare this to a year like 2013, where we saw more than double, a total of 17 regular playsets, once again excluding UCS or Master Builder Series sets, battle packs, and the Planet Series. If we take a step back even further and compare years like 2024 to 2014, 2024 had 12 minifigure scale playsets, so slightly more, once again excluding battle packs and GWPs. But if we compare this to 2014, which had even more than 2013, at 19 minifigure playsets. I mean, just look at this wave from January, where all 4 of these sets were just $25 at the same time. Crazy to see. So as we can see, the last few years have been giving us less minifigure based playsets and more 18 plus collector models. Now, is this a problem? Not necessarily. For me, I personally don't like the 18 plus sets, as I'm someone who's a fan of LEGO sets for the set and the minifigures, and I have not much of an interest in the more collector Helmet Series or Starship Collection. However, I am glad that they do exist for people who want to collect them. What I'm not glad about though, is that they now seem to actually be retracting or taking away from the regular minifigure based playsets that we get each year, taking up more and more shelf space, as this year in 2025, there were 15 sets that were either 18 plus, large scale figures, or made purely for display. As I mentioned 2013 before, just look at some of these sets: the Jewel and Geonosis, the Rancor Pit, or the Old Republic Jedi Defender class cruiser. All of these sets are things that we would love to see today, but we are beginning to miss out on because LEGO is directing so much of its budget to these collector sets. What I'm saying is, with fewer regular minifigure based playsets, LEGO has less scope and room to explore unique LEGO Star Wars set ideas. Don't get me wrong, of the 8 regular playsets we've gotten this year, there are some great concepts and ideas here. If we ignore things like minifigure quality and price, which we shouldn't have to ignore, but just bear with me here, we saw the return of Jango's Slave 1, the ARC 170, and the V19 Torrent, all from over a decade ago. Plus, we got a brand new take on the classic MTT. But now as we move into 2026 and beyond, I'm starting to get really concerned with the rumored and leaked set lists that we could be starting to see the real downsides of getting fewer minifigure based playsets each year. With LEGO Star Wars, there are certain types of ships, characters, or sets that I would call evergreen, meaning that they will always exist, or there will at least always be one version of on shelves at any given time. What do I mean by this? I mean sets like an X-Wing, or a TIE Fighter, or the Millennium Falcon are so iconic to the brand and sell so well that there is always some version of these sets available. Currently, we have the X-Wing and TIE Fighter Rebuild the Galaxy set, and of course the UCS and Dark Falcons. However, with the X-Wing and TIE Fighter set retiring at the end of this year, this now leaves a void needing to be filled, which is where I'll begin to discuss the LEGO Star Wars sets for 2026. For 2026 so far, we've been told that we are getting both an X-Wing and a new Vader's TIE Advance set, which is fine. I get it. These sets sell well, so LEGO is going to make them every so often. However, what I don't like is the rumored prices of these sets. First is the TIE Advanced, which isn't completely terrible, $60 for 473 pieces, but the X-Wing comes in at a whopping $90 for just 584 pieces. This is interesting to me because this now marks our most expensive X-Wing yet, minus the UCS ones, overtaking the 2018 X-Wing, which was $80 but had 731 pieces. So is this just another example of overpriced LEGO in 2026? Yes, it is, but there's also another added dimension here, and that is something new for 2026, the Smart Brick. Now, we know this is coming, but it's also still a really big unknown about what a smart brick is actually going to do. What we do know is that these are electronic bricks that will be taking LEGO in a new direction and supposedly adapting to how you play with it. Whether this means lights or sounds, I'm not entirely sure, but from some leaked promotional material, we believe it will make some kind of effects depending on whether you swoosh the ship or land it or put a minifigure in or out of it. So with these smart bricks, there will of course be an added cost. This is most clearly visible in the new X-Wing, where a set that is downsized is yet more expensive than any previous X-Wing we've ever seen before. For me, part of my understanding of LEGO's downsizing was to lessen the number of pieces of a set, but also lessen the price. A downsized set should have better stability and still retain the key functions and features of a set, and like I said, be cheaper. Now, of course, this was initially the case with the 2021 X-Wing and TIE Fighter, as well as Boba Fett's Starship and the Imperial Shuttle. These sets were all smaller, but were very compact and a lot cheaper. But now this has slightly slipped out with things like the new Turbo Tank, which has pretty bad stability and is far more expensive than any Turbo Tank we've ever gotten before. However, by now continuing to downsize these classic sets, but add in smart bricks, it looks like this is going to be adding a huge additional cost to a set that I just do not think is worth it. LEGO has tried electronic components in their sets so many times before. The most recent, of course, is LEGO Super Mario, a theme that we know hasn't been the greatest or most successful thing ever, or even LEGO Pokemon coming next year will have these smart bricks as well. But even looking throughout the early 2000s, LEGO threw so many electronics ideas against the wall, and literally none of them stuck. If you remember, we had those light up Jedi figures from Star Wars, or lots of other weird things like Galador, but then even in more recent times, we've had themes like Video and Hidden Side that all ultimately failed. And if you recall, in the early 2000s, LEGO was on the brink of bankruptcy, having to cut thousands of jobs and more than 30% of all product lines. And what was it in the end that actually saved them? It was consolidating their lineup and focusing on the core of the brand and what actually works. I think the beauty of LEGO is the creativity, and that it doesn't need a digital or electronic component in a world where digitalization seems to be taking over everything. And typically, when LEGO tries this, it just doesn't work. So when we pair this downsizing of sets with the smart brick, lessening quality in minifigure detail, and higher prices for fewer pieces, it leaves me really concerned for the future of LEGO Star Wars. So like I said at the start of the video, how do we fix this? I honestly think it's pretty simple. We just don't need these smart bricks. LEGO has never been successful with electronic components, so I honestly don't think that this is any different, and I don't see this being the next evolution for the brand. I get that inflation is a thing, I understand how it works, and I kind of agree that downsizing sets is a way to keep prices down, as long as they actually get the prices down. Minifigure detail is another issue entirely that can only be fixed with LEGO giving their teams bigger budgets budgets for the sets, since if we look at something like the Death Star designer interview, it really seemed like the designers wanted to put in the best and greatest minifigures that they could, but it was the executives and the suits over at LEGO making the budgetary decisions and cuts that just won't allow it. So I hope that from this video you can understand my concerns with the future of LEGO Star Wars specifically, as it is genuinely one of my favorite LEGO themes of all time from the best movie franchise ever, and I just wish it would go back to that peak early 2010s era. Regardless, please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? And please subscribe to the channel if you are new and like my content, and I'll see you in the next one.